Hey guys, so thanks for popping on here. I am just here to kind of introduce myself, and I think talk a little bit more about my story behind fitness, or just like how I got to where I am today, because I feel like I haven't really discussed that before. So, growing up was always an active kid. I was always involved in sports. I was running around, I was playing, I was doing all the things. I was very rarely inside watching TV. Like, I was outside 24/7, just running around. So then I was doing sports all my life. And then in high school, my freshman year, I was a swimmer. I was on the varsity cheer team and I did all-star cheerleading. And it was crazy. I would literally have to leave swim practice 15 minutes early so that I could get changed, dry off, and then get in the car so that we could make it to cheer practice on time. And it was 30 minutes away at the time. So it was an interesting time. I think my mom hated me. So that was freshman year. And then sophomore year, I actually dislocated my shoulder and the doctor was like, all right, you got to choose one sport because everything that you're doing is not going to work out for your shoulder. So I chose cheerleading, stayed on varsity and all-star. And then junior year, I was tumbling and I landed and I just lost feeling from below my legs. I fell and my tumbling coach looked at me like, the heck is wrong with you? I was like, I don't know. I just lost feeling. So everything turned out fine. But we did go to the doctor and I had to get a PET scan and an MRI. So I got some x-rays, an MRI, and then I had to get a PET scan. And they scheduled my PET scan on a Saturday when I had high school cheerleading, and it was during a football game. So I went to the hospital and I got the injection that you need, and it dyes your bones, and it takes a while. So you have to leave and come back. So I got the injection. It was terrible. It was huge. I was basically a radioactive human walking around. And then I got back on the track and I cheered for the rest of the football game and then went back to the hospital to get the PET scan. So I kept cheering and we had summer stuff go on. I got a concussion that summer. And then senior year, I was sitting on the couch and my parents were like, are you okay? You look like you're in pain. And I was like, no, I'm cool. Not accurate, by the way. And then I got off the couch and all you heard was and my mom, her eyes went so wide and she was like, what was that? And I was just like, it was nothing. So the next day she made an appointment for me for the doctor and they determined that my fracture never healed. And it's not really getting better. Well, it got a little bit better, but at the end of the day, if I continued to cheer and made it worse, I could be paralyzed from the waist down. So my mom heard that and she was like, you're done. So hung up the uniform and it was a very sad time in my life. To tell an 18-year-old that who feels physically fine for the most part, that she's not allowed to do something that she absolutely loves and turn me around. That's the thing. That's the one thing I feel I never talk about. I was on a dangerous path. I was a punk. I was rebellious. I walked out of classrooms. I cursed out people. I was confrontational. I was in the darkest place I could ever imagine for a 15, 16, 17-year-old. And I did attempt to take my life. Ended up in rehab, and it was just if you ask my parents, they were very concerned for my future. I don't know what changed except for the fact that I was in a very, very strict cheerleading program. And it was hard because I didn't fit in. All these girls had been cheering for years and they were really good and I was just getting started kind of a thing, and I didn't fit in and I was bullied for sure all the time. But I stuck with it because I loved the sport, and I knew that my coach was really hard on me, and like there's a couple of things that she had said to me that like still stick with me, self-esteem wise, but I knew that the structure and the sport was what I needed. So I stuck with it, and it completely changed me. Like, it turned me around 100%. And yeah, that sport saved my life for sure. Which is why now as an adult, I want to give back to it all the time. But so anyway, so I had to quit, and that was just like a really tough thing. And I was just kind of like, well, what the heck am I gonna do now? So I went out and I toured a couple gyms, and I bought a gym membership. It's like hard, you know, like I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to lift or do anything. So I'd go once in a while. I was paying like, I think it was like $40 a month. I was 18. And you know, I was working like 2 jobs. And it just like, it didn't bring me joy. So I stopped going, and like, I just didn't do it. So then I went to college, and I dabbled a little bit in mostly like cardio stuff. And then I started doing a little bit of weightlifting towards my junior year. My boyfriend at the time was a big weightlifter, and some of my friends really liked lifting weights. So I would go in and stuff. And then, I was in an abusive relationship in college, and unfortunately, that relationship altered the gym for me, because that person made me feel really small at the gym. He yelled at me and basically made me feel really bad about myself. So I never had, it was like very hard for me to go back So then after that, I tried to do just like cardio stuff in my apartment gym at the time. That just did not work. Adherence is key, and if you fucking hate something, you're not gonna adhere to it. And that's how I felt about cardio. So I didn't continue to do it. Like, I would try and do like the elliptical and like walk, and it just didn't work out. So pretty much I just stopped forever. So about 6 months after I graduated in 2016, I got settled into a job that had a gym in the office. And so I started getting really interested in just taking care of myself and my health, because it wasn't necessarily that I was unhappy with the way that I looked, which I was, but that wasn't the driving factor. The driving factor was the fact that I felt unhealthy. Like, senior year, I drank every single day. I was drinking a ton over the summer after I graduated. I continued to drink a ton like while I was working, and I just felt unhealthy. It was like gross. I was tired. My body like felt unhealthy. I had gut issues. I was just like, I need to do something. So I started going to the gym, and then there was this personal trainer actually at our office who we could use for free as well. And God, I loved him. And so from then on in, every single day that he was there, which is 3 times a week, I made sure that I used my lunch break to train with him. And then I moved to a different city, and my commute was 10 times longer. So I decided to just join a local gym. Then after that, a girlfriend of mine was really into strongman, and we went to her gym, and we did some deadlifts, which obviously you guys know are my favorite. And then, but that was the first time I ever deadlifted. It was 185 pounds. And then I think we did squats as well. And then we threw kegs. And this, I was like, okay, if I could just come into a gym and do this kind of stuff, I would love that. So I looked into it, and unfortunately, because of my spine, I can't safely do strongman. Can't do Olympic weightlifting. So then I found powerlifting. And I was like, well, I freaking loved the deadlifts, and I didn't mind the squats. And I just hadn't tried benching yet. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna get stronger and go from there. So I started following this KK Fit bulking guide. Started following that guide, and I was like soaring. Okay, like my strength was all the way up here. And then I also started following Claire Thomas, who is a 1st Phorm athlete. And I was like, this girl is awesome. And I'm just like, what is she all about? So her and I chatted a little bit on Instagram, mostly about post-workout. And she was kind of like giving me the rundown. I was like, cool. So ordered it, loved it. And then it popped up this little thing about joining or like being a part of 1st Phorm, and I was like, okay. So I thought that was cool. So spoke with Jeff, who is amazing and such a close friend now, and I just like became immersed into this culture with all of these people and all of this support, and I was overwhelmed. I was like, holy smokes, like how is it that like one little opportunity opens up so many gosh darn doors? And the next thing you know, like every single day I just like had my head down in articles, like webinars, like so many different things about nutrition, fitness. I learned so much in such a short amount of time, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. It was awesome. So then I continued to weightlift, and I had a comp scheduled for powerlifting. It was a female powerlifting competition in Virginia in February of 2019. And on December 1st, I had just hit my PR of 245 on deadlift, and I was super excited. And then on December 2nd, on December 2nd, 2018, I went into the gym, and I was going to get a quick workout in before I had my cheerleading showcase with my girls. Well, I didn't make it to the cheerleading showcase because I made it to the hospital. So I totally blew out my shoulder. I dislocated my bicep tendon, partially dislocated my shoulder, and then tore my labrum in half. Deemed I needed surgery. It was terrible. So now this brings back all the emotions of getting cheerleading taken away because I fell in love with weightlifting, and now it's gone. So, I was pretty upset. Yeah. But at that time, I didn't know that I was in a 2-year-long depression at that point. I had no idea that I was depressed because it's hard to know. And I'm a pretty big advocate for myself when I know that I'm going down. So it wasn't like I was like deep down in a hole. But after the shoulder situation, I went deep down in that hole, and I knew it, and I knew that I had to do something to change that, but it was just hard. To have something that you love so much, something that is finally like kind of like bringing you happiness, and just have it taken away from you. And I was just mortified. I hated the world. I hated myself. I hated everything. Like I was in a serious depression. And that lasted for a while. So I got reconstructive surgery. And that was like the most painful surgery on the face of this planet. Like, first of all, the nerve blockers that they gave me, I couldn't feel my arm for over 24 hours. Which, like, there was something stuck on my hand, and I had no idea. Like, I was in the sling. I forget what I walked by, but I sat down, and there was something hanging from my hand. I don't remember what it was. It was like a towel or something. Like, it was ridiculous. And I just started bawling, because I was like, how is that possible? Like, how do I not have, am I gonna ever have feeling in my arm again? Like, I was mortified. And then I finally did have feeling in my arm again, and boy, let me tell you, I wish I did. Because the pain was so immense, But you guys have heard me talk about that 1,000 times, and there's a whole video on it. So things sucked, and I was living at home, and like my mom had to like bathe me. So about 2 weeks later, I decided that I was going to move back to Maryland in a sling, and take care of myself. And so I did, and I went through the rehab process. It was about 6 months long, and I went to the doctor, and he told me I had a perfect recovery and I was 100% cleared. And I was so excited. So that was June of 2019. So it was so exciting. So then I kind of reflected, and I think on that whole experience, the only thing that saved me was the support. Every single day, somebody from the 1st Phorm family, like somebody that just like knew what 1st Phorm stood for, was there for me, like through the whole process. And I think that that is the only reason that I kept fighting and I kept going. And one day I just decided I was going to beat this, and I was going to be better than it, and I was going to come back stronger than ever. About 6 months ago in January, so I did a lot of research, and I was like, I am meant to be an athletic trainer. So I quit my job and I went back to school. It's definitely been hard, but the one thing that is making it 10 times easier is the fact that I have a family and people behind me to support me all the time. And that makes it easier. And this, like the fact that I have the opportunity to share my story, the fact that all of it is like due to finding myself through a company who literally just wants to help people. Like, that's it. But I love the fact that I have the opportunity to help people on a daily basis and be able to potentially inspire 1 or 2 people here and there. And I receive the sweetest messages of all time just because I am being 100% me. Like, nothing is inauthentic about me. And sometimes I'm just a little weird. Sometimes I don't say the right things. I'm awkward as all hell. But I don't know. It's cool to hear some of the things that people have to say. And through all of this, I cannot thank this journey enough, because it has taught me so much about myself. But the best part is that in a couple of years, I'll be able to help young athletes find themselves the same way that I found myself. And that to me is going to be, that's what I want in life. Like, I want to be able to help not only everybody, but like help young athletes, especially when they're going through an injury and like, you know, just not feeling like they're playing at their best. Like, I want to be able to be there for them and help them through that process, because it does get better and you can come out on the other side of it, just like I did.